It's finally time to be shitting myself on this stage.
I want to introduce Isis to the stage.
How do you manage all of this? Full stack agency, your own brands, team of whatever people, equity deals, quite a bit of things to handle, right? And at the end, I came out with really simple yet pretty scalable answer.
I feel like a warlord, protecting my soul, praying on my knees so many nights. Murders right outside this runs, terrorized. You make it out, you'll treat this shit like paradise.
You think we were about to stop? We are not. There's a lot of more sauce coming on the way. And this one is also going to be an interesting one. I've been working closely with him for the past months, and I've been amazed by the amount of knowledge you can have about a certain topic. Mostly about performance marketing, it's about direct response, it's about understanding your audience, it's about understanding how to optimize your profits with creatives and funnels. And I've just explained about the internal teams we've used. It's always good with an internal extra partner, and we're pleased to work with such an incredible extra internal growth partner. I want to introduce Isis to the stage, my man. He's going to talk about.
Thanks.
Let's go.
Let's roll.
Let's fucking do it, my man.
First time. So, even today, same question over and over again. How do you manage all of this? You have full stack agency, your own brands, team of whatever people, equity deals, all of it. I mean, quite a bit of things to handle, right? As you can see. But on one hand, answer is pretty simple. To hit 1 mil days, you have to manage complexity. But as you can see here, simple mechanisms, they're being aided by complex mechanisms. And my intention here is not to be simple. My intention here is to be as complex as possible and manage that complexity at scale. But on one hand, the answer is much more than structure and intentional. As we all know, e-com is a pretty complex business model. You have many different moving parts. You have all these things here without even touching the marketing. You have customer support, cash flow, new market, whatever. And if we go for marketing, you have creative, CRO, funnels, offers, influencers, like, well, who cares? Now, whoever is intentional behind things that move the needle, they will eventually win, right? And speaking of winners, even though I hate be called that way myself, but sometimes you have to. So when I was in Miami a week ago preparing for this keynote, I started thinking, if you're to go to ecom, you should be able to win day in, day out, but at the same time, you should be able to break down the business model to its deepest levels. You should be able to understand it so well that you can sum it up in just 2 fucking words. So I asked myself, if I had to describe it myself, what they would be. I went through all the different layers. I went simplicity, complexity, simplicity once again, which is pretty much this little thing here. And at the end, I came out with really simple yet pretty scalable answer. The game is math and psychology, as you can see here. A bit of psychology, add creatives, whatever, and some numbers. Creatives and funnels, they're going to be mostly psychology, and economics, offers, whatever, they're going to be all about math. And when you connect those two, when you get them in the same room and they fuck, you have scale. Math tells you what and when to do certain things, and psychology is how you actually scale yours and your team's effort. And there's one little problem though. Math and psychology, fuck, I thought, it's so cool and professional. That's me sitting in Miami preparing for this keynote. But the only problem left at that point was just like, how do I take something cool, professional, we use personally, day in, day out, into actionable, and in general, how we can actually, guys, put these in systems. And that's exactly what my presentation here is going to solve. Today I want you to walk out with 2 things, structure and predictability on data, greatest funnels, offers at 1 mil day levels. And here we go, let's roll. So take out your notebooks and let's move forward. before you start any creative funnel offer, whatever strategy, like I said, intentional, strategic is key. Top to bottom, bottom, top, however you want to play with it. And being intentional and strategic comes down to data, which is exactly the part one of this presentation. So let's go for some math. Let's start with two core parts, which I use as my day-to-day math, numbers, data, these kind of things. So my first part, they're going to be so-called roadblocks. And another one is going to be North Star numbers, call them that way. Roadblocks, typically, they're going to be your CAC, CPM, CTR, or conversion rate, these kind of things. North Stars, LTV, 3-month, 12-month, AOV, subscription take rate, upsell, economics, whatever. The goal is to use your efforts smart enough so then you can have roadblocks fulfill your North Stars and they can go hand in hand. Now, if your North Star numbers are dialed in, your roadblocks become way much more scalable and they go vice versa. As example, if we look at this brand, 18 million revenue, 5.6 in operating income, MER, whatever. That's, by the way, Kandy calculator, the thing we use internally. The thing I didn't show you guys is like at the top we have typically the baseline of OTP and subscription lifetime values on the left, on the right. Here we typically have our cohort on many different types of customers, and underneath we typically have a ton of historical data that is going into all of this complexity. So now we take this brand and we split that into roadblocks and whatever. And now I want to use a bit of your imagination here, because I feel like with AI, with social media, with Reels, you know, we just scroll them, we consume the content, and it's so easy for us to get the image out so that we don't even use our imagination to go out there and imagine things ourselves. So for now, I'll just use a bit of your imagination. I want you to picture image in your head on like how you would add 300K a month spend without breaking your business. So my thinking process in this case, if we look back at the numbers I showed you, would be my roadblock, just to simplify this deep down, my roadblock would be my CAC, which is $100. My North Star would be my subscription take rate of 30%, because I did my research, I deep into data, whatever, and I come up with these two numbers. My actionable, in this case, would be implement an offer aiming for 60% subscription take rate, because I know that the needle mover for this brand is going to be my cohort and how healthy it is. And then on the other side, my roadblock goals would be 5 winning ads to maintain CAC at $115 cost per acquisition, which means at the end of the day, I want to scale to an ad, basically 300K of ad spend. Now let's look at how this brand looks afterwards. My CAC is increased by 15 bucks. My spend increased by 300K. Take rate here increased, and my MER increased. So how the fuck? I just scaled by 300K a month ad spend throughout the whole year. I increased my revenue. My profits are stayed the same, and my MER increased by like 0.5 whatever. It's just because I take care of my roadblock, but at the same time, I manage this little number. Because I can see exactly that whenever I get this, because I have my healthy cohorts, whatever, this is gonna maintain, it's gonna be healthy. So instead of running around trying all those cool strategies, whatever, I start exactly there. We look at data, we know exactly what needs to be there in order to scale without breaking it. And like always, you push some, you pull some. It's all about spotting the needle movers and allocating efforts in this data game. Once you are aware, it's time to crack some assets. So part 2 is going to be creative. So now, same thing, let's imagine. You need to go from 300K month ad spend, now you need to add $500,000 by the end of June. Quite a challenge. Let's say my winning ad on average spends 125K within first 30 days, that's my historical data. And its hit rate, that type of ad hits on average, let's say 10%. And 80% of those winners carrying out such ad spend, they're going to be completely new angles. So 40 batches minus 80%, 32 angles, 10% hit rate, 4 winners spending 125K a month. Now I understand what I'm aiming for. Like I guess Daniel said here, I have the North Star on like what I'm going after. And if it's not going well, I can see where it's breaking. Now I do the same with angle. I specify that, which means angle in my eyes, in this case, let's say I go for a specific group of people with aiming off specific outcome. So deep down, all I need is just to solve 32 problems. And if you guys are solving problems here as business owners, you probably do that way differently than all those people you're going after will do. So they're going to be a bit easier, but still, I mean, instead of going for easiness, you still need like all those 50 UGC creators, long form VSLs, all that fun stuff, right? But in my eyes, I look for an edge. I look for a thing that will let me break my math, in this case, in creative system. So I look for, in this case, product awareness levels. Where do I fit in? Customer demo and their emotional state. This one is really important. Language patterns across the market, which means instead of going for, oh, this format award, this creative hit, for my competitor, I go for language pattern. What type of keywords they tend to use, what kind of specifics they go for, which we'll touch on a bit later. And outcomes they typically want and more specifically need to achieve in order to pretty much live a good life. So now I also look for what are the missing emotions to achieve the outcome they want. I also look for what are the trade-offs you have to take in order to move forward with you. Because if you're selling an item for $200 and new iPhone suddenly came out, then the trade-off is pretty clear. iPhone is going to be at the top of the game. And then obviously what are the alternatives and how my mechanism is going to be better than those alternatives. So that's pretty much what I'm going for. 80% of my time, and then on top of this, cherry on top, I dry test 32 problems and avatars, which means, if we look at as an example here, noise, ADHD, distractions, sensory overload, I think somewhere here we have hearing aids, we have parenting, we have multiple different ones, and I dry test that with an easy format, which means I'm quick, I'm dynamic, and I buy data on my research, on my thesis. And I come out with some research, as I said, data, whatever, and that's exactly what's gonna let me break my success rate. Basically, I go against the wind in a way, because if my success rate is 10%, by nailing and understanding the customer, by generating a quick batch of data, I can somehow go against the wind, or not, but at least I have the intention behind it. And then I hit the gas on volume with this process in place. So let's say I have the data, I have some sort of like angle, whatever, and then I go for, for further scaling. And then I go volume, go video ads, I go static ads, I do all sorts of shit. And I use this type of thing to continue forward. That's the next step. So I basically ask myself 2 simple questions. New angle, is it scaling or not? Yes, no. If yes, I go for why it's actually working. Because it's going to let me improve my systems. And what was my intention behind this batch? Which means I'm getting answer on my thesis and I collect data behind that thesis. And then I can hit a high volume of iterations and I scale. Same goes here. Questions are not going to change. Is it not scaling? Why? What was my intentions? Whatever. I repeat a cycle, I'll go back here and I want to end up here. So that's pretty much that. And one of the most things in this process is just the question of why. I guess we all would agree that sometimes, as you're in the process, as an entrepreneur, you typically ask more like how rather than why. Because you're in the process, not in the problem state yourself. So as an example, here we have a video ad.
Most people don't know this, but just one concert could cause permanent hearing damage. Let's say 100 decibels for just 15 minutes can already do the damage. But don't be too scared of this. I do have a solution for this. When it's sunny, you wear sunglasses. So when the music's too loud, you wear earplugs. But, yes, I know that. Most earplugs suck. You don't want to really wear them because you look weird, but...
Okay. Now, my thesis, why this app worked, let's say, maybe it didn't, I don't know. My thesis here would be, why would be like, just because I showed the real life example. You saw like decibels, you saw when the sun is bright you wear sunglasses, when the music is loud you wear earplugs, which means I have this thesis that real life examples will move the needle for me. I take that out and I move forward with my process. Knowing this, we can scale and I repeat the cycle of Y like we did here. So we took out the same thing and we replicated it. Okay, you get the point. We replicated basically my thesis of show the real life examples into a format by itself, which means we took out a music playing out there in the festival, and that's exactly like what they do day to day. That's exactly the thesis that I got from that podcast, VSL. Even though the formats are completely different, the thing stays the same. So that's the power of question why. Now, look, after all, in general, we're not looking for winning ads, at least here at Kandy. We're looking for intention and data to create an IP which stays forever. Because, if you get a winning ad, short-term revenue is fine. It's great, it's enjoyable, it hits for 3, 4, 6 weeks, whatever, but you are not the owner of an IP, so to say. And now it's all cool. As you scale, your situation changes. Your product, market, customer, personality, whatever, new products coming out, your competitor might release something new, something better, and all that fun stuff. That's why you repeat this whole cycle every single month or every 2 months, depending on your scale, so then you can actually restructure your system, relearn, and feed that system with more data, with more whys, and answer of whys. So, in general, that's how it looks. You get the key parts moving and testing fast, then you collect the data, answer the question why, simplify the process to the core of it, like I showed you on that meme. At first you start being dumb, then you go into medium, you put in the complexity, and then you go back to simplicity because you know what works. So that's basically the cycle, and then you repeat the cycle all over again. Like when we were in Miami, I got this friend, he's like really good developer, and he's running an app. They're selling these like sneakers, limited edition, whatever. And with his app, you can basically buy them way faster. And now he goes, we rebuild our app every 3 months. I asked, wait, why? You work so hard, you put in all of your time, and you rebuild the whole thing. You write, 50,000s of lines of codes. And he goes, as you move forward, situations will change. Maybe I don't need this feature anymore. Maybe I don't need this little thing over there. Maybe my code is so flooded that I'll just need to start from scratch. So the same goes with creative. Again, this little thing. Once again, get the key parts moving, testing fast. In this case, we got this static app. Won't show you the videos because they take too long. Then I have my thesis here, which looks like that. I won't read that through, but it's pretty good. So take pictures. So that's the part 1. That's the part 2, and then you end up simplifying the process to the core of it. You specify the angle, the format, whatever, and then you repeat a cycle with the volume. So that's basically that, and this way my testing and data generation becomes intentional and strategic, which means every time it breaks, I'll know exactly why this happened. Maybe this question of why didn't work, maybe this format, my thesis was wrong on this one, but I have the structure, I know exactly why, I know my intention. And at the end of the day, I own the IP of creating winning ads. So now, ads great, math is great, let's move into some offers, which is, I believe, one of the most important things out there. In my eyes, offer in e-com D2C is just a situation which makes sense for everyone involved in the decision-making process, which means it has to hit the core incentives of your traffic channel, your customer, and finally, most importantly, yourself. Offers the way to open doors for more customers, contribute for your North Star numbers, and create free cash flow. Free cash flow. That's key. And poor offer means you don't have the free cash flow to throw back into your business. That's pretty much the worst position to be in. And no free cash flow means everyone but your business eats, and it's just a question of time. You cash out for yourself, you cash out for your overhead, and there's nothing left for your customers to enjoy. That's pretty much a structure of the offer. I have all of these incentives here. Volume, makes it easy to justify, creates a free cash flow, and then I go yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And then I have different things I'll take based on these questions. So now, let's just break it down. If you look back at Kandy calculator, a thing we use daily, the question you gotta answer here is, am I playing the AOV game, LTV game, or maybe I'm just gonna go for both. Maybe I'll have two different funnels. One is going to be for LTV, another one is going to be fully direct response cap, checkout champs, full AOV mode. And what's my game in order to grow and sustain growth? Let's say I play 90-day LTV game. So much texting for Vince. So, girl. And that's how I'm about to grow fast. So let's imagine Kandy calculator shows that my CAC is trending down whenever I hit 1 mil a month of ad spend. And I need to turn this around as soon as possible because I have my overhead, I have my staff, and if I don't pay on time, their families are gonna go broke. So my thinking process in this situation would be, what's stopping me from getting to 90-day profitable levels? Who is the most valuable customer? And what can I do on my front end and the back end to improve this? So let's look into this example. We have the front end, we have the back end. Front end, as always, looks nice and cool. Back end is like full of data, boring stuff. But we combine those two. And what I get out of it by looking at Kandy calculator, by looking at the front end, is, first of all, I'm not growing because of 90-day profitability, and 90-day profitability is not growing because of churn on the first month. That's pretty much my North Star goal. Then, second thing, who's the most valuable customer? Let's say guys into fitness, like 30 years old, buying for performance reasons, perform better. And first of all, what can I do on my front and back to improve this? So, what can I do? I send out a few emails asking why the fuck you're canceling. It's a great product, tastes great, everyone loves it, and you're standing there canceling. And I figured out that pretty much awareness of subscription is key. They're canceling because of that. Then I optimize my offer for 90-day value customer. I maximize margin, and knowing this, what my action plan would be very simple. I switch back to OTP subscription offer just to bring up the awareness of subscription, which means now I have both of these offers. I'll still anchor the price so they take subscription, but just because they have that OTP, they'll be aware of it. I'd optimize my messaging for fitness people and test offer without free gifts. So if we look back, that would look something like that. I would go OTP, subscription pre-selected. Here, instead of going for great taste, drink, water, milk, whatever, I go for things that fitness people care about. So, let's say no calories, no sugar, whatever, non-GMO. Then I optimize all of this based on my 90-day LTV profitability. So I split my flavors by LTV on 90 days. Quantity, free gifts, non-free gifts, I split all of this by 90-day LTV. And let's say I find out that chocolate, 2 bags, no free gifts will do the best, as example, because probably it won't. But let's say, that does best on 90-day LTV, and that's what I need in order to grow. So I would pre-select that, remove that, introduce OTP, and I'm pretty much done on my offer. Another example. Let's say my CAC is increasing and spend goes up, and at the end of the day, I face marginal CAC problems. How many of you know what marginal CAC is? Raise the hands. It's nice. Yeah, so marginal CAC is the thing where you hit the ceiling with your CAC, which means the more you scale, you hit that point where let's say you spend 1 mil a month, and above that is just pure disaster. Your CAC is just exploding. So that's pretty much that. And let's say my business is facing exactly that. I'm not saying, Vince, that yours is facing that. I'm just giving examples here. And let's say I don't have LTV. I'm no longer a 90-day LTV brand. I'm just there to fix my problem. So I have this type of catalog, many different products. What I'm about to do, I'm in need of free cash flow in order to grow. Looking at Kandy calculator, let's say I spot some products in the catalog that have really solid 3-month LTV. Let's say they're pillowcases in this example. So my action plan here, in order to beat my marginal CAC problem, is going to be set up a pre-checkout pop-up upsell, pushing pillowcases. No-brainer offer, even if they're breaking even, whatever, that's going to come back. Then set up after purchase email flow, going for, again, still pillowcase offer. Instead of asking for a review, I have a ton of them, I don't care about them. I'll push this offer because that's basically where my free cash flow hides. Then I'll build bundle with a new customer acquisition product and my LTV product, and I'll price my LTV product really low. Again, breaking even, just to sell them that product because they know that if they're gonna get their hands on it, they're gonna come back, and that's my free cash flow. And then I'll collect that LTV on second, third, whatever purchase. I'll compound free cash flow, and I'm good. Last example. Let's say I'm just playing the new customer acquisition game. This is exactly the product that pretty much fits that criteria because you have one SKU, you have one product. Obviously, you can release new products, you can do colors, whatever. But let's say for now I'm just playing the customer acquisition game. Now I need both AOV and LTV actually to open up some free cash flow. And to use that cash flow for my business development in general, to release 2.0, to release those new colors, whatever. So here's my thinking process behind this. That's a pre-selected boost on order. That's not shipping protection. And here, what I push is pretty simple. I take AOV, LTV, and I make sense and hit the incentives behind all of the parties involved in the decision-making process. Let's break that down. So I have €6 here, I have €10 gift card, free replacements, whatever, priority handling. So now, in customer's eyes, what's going to happen is like this €6 boost on order thing, it's going to sound valuable. It's a no-brainer because of €10 gift card. It's typically, you spend 6, you get 10 back. Then, in my eyes, it's going to have pretty good take rate, which means it's a no-brainer offer. Let's say, whatever, 50% take rate means my AOV contribution on this one is going to be €3. Now, finally, LTV. I have this little thing here, which means I'm giving them a reason to come back. So I push AOV, LTV, I boost my AOV right away, and I make sense for everyone. Everyone wins, everyone eats. After all, offer is the way to open doors for more customers, contribute for your North Star number, and create free cash flow. Scalable offer will drive volume. That's exactly what Meta needs. Makes it easy to justify. That's exactly what your customer wants, and it creates you free cash flow. That's at the end of the day what you need. And remember, you can sell anything. It's just a question of positioning. If we look at this little thing, you can see same product, same packaging, same whatever, benefits, features, totally the same. Store, hotel, airport, and price is totally different. Offer is totally different. What's changing is just the place. So next time you feel that you're worth nothing, maybe you're just in the wrong place. Now, funnels. I guess we have some time. Let's see. I'll start with this little table because a lot of you guys, you touched on awareness levels, you touched on different types of awareness level tables. Jem, threw that one on Google and the way it works on Google. And I want to start funnels with this one because, like I said, I'm really into being intentional and being strategic, which means if I have this kind of thing, and by the way, I saw this somewhere on Twitter, so whoever created this, genius. So let's say if I have this, I can instantly see where do you fit in. What kind of things do I need to test? What kind of things would I skip at the first start? Later on, we'll get to how you can test out the whole table, but at first you need to set the intention of the funnel and understand what type of game you're playing here. And if I would need to again give you examples, if I have like a visual product, clear before and afters, whatever, I would probably go for optimized PDP, short pre-liner potentially. If I have a product with mechanism, I would go long form. I would go listicle, advertorial, like VSL, whatever. And you fit yourself into a table of awareness, product type, scale, and your attentions. So now another thing you're also in control of is awareness levels, funnily enough, and audience groups yourself, which means if you create a new mechanism for a funnel, it should have a high likelihood of achieving the outcome customer likes, which means you can open up that table and say, I wake up and I want to go for unaware people. I have this product, but I'm tired of converting for 2% on high awareness people. I want to go for complete newbies. I want to find, like I showed you the picture, completely new guys that are unaware and they potentially pay more, or guys on like more scarcity or whatever. The only thing I would give you here is just avoid crappy mechanisms, because a lot of these guys I see out there, they're just going for a mechanism that doesn't even make sense. So let's say if we use gear, sleep mask will get rid of your belly. We are just basically sleeping better. Makes no sense. Here, sleeping mask will get rid of your baggy eyes, collagen production, whatever, deep sleep. That makes sense. I can explain it further. So now, getting back to this table, you just look around, be intentional. If you want to play here, unaware, and you have aware product, you can play around with mechanism. If not, you just push here, yeah, you just go for it. Once the first layer is done, we make the first move, and we move forward with what I call as like what makes or breaks the funnel. So one thing I got to develop internally is so-called waves. You see, if landing page, if we take the whole landing page, it's actually nothing more than just a next step to an ad on, in this case, Meta's scrolling behavior. And you're hiding the sales process, and you're taking control of their justification process through that landing page. So if you're going for PDP, I mean, it's great. You go for, your price point right away, you make it fully aware, and their justification process is going to be pretty simple. They go from an ad all the way to the product page, they get to see the price point, and they make the decision. But you can also control that, which means if you're going for advertorial, listicle, whatever, your justification process will be way longer. And you can precede certain emotions, you can precede certain ideas that you want them to accept in order to buy potentially higher ticket product or more complex mechanism. So meta scrolling is all about dopamine hits. It's fast-paced consumption of basically things that are funny for them. Trust me, they're not there to solve their problems. Most of the times, whenever you scroll on meta, you're not even thinking about your problems. You're just there, scrolling, brain dead, enjoying yourself. That's a way to get off the problems. And landing page is typically exactly the same, but dynamics change. It goes from being brain dead into being brain active. They're looking for dopamine hits the same way they're looking whenever they scrolling on meta. So now, most important of all, is just to make sure that your first dopamine hit that they're going to experience on whenever they land on your page is going to be the right one, which means 90% of the job is being done exactly there. It's going to be your first fold, your first headline, your first visual, and you gotta make that right dopamine hit. And first of all, pretty much meet them where they are. If they're brain dead, whatever, and your ad goes, whatever, then your LP, let's say, maybe it continues with what and how. So let's say my ad goes for why, it answers the question of why, and my LP will lead with what. My basically first fold is going to answer what, and then my rest of the page is going to go into how. So that's basically how I'm meeting them at where they are. And you spot these by looking at so-called language patterns, which means you go through your funnel or someone else's funnel all the way from an ad to the thank you page, and you spot these. And then you test the combination of these, which means you go why, what, how, what, how, what, depending on your awareness levels, depending on your preference, depending on where you want to fit in, again, in that table. So let's say if my ad goes, let's go back. If my ad goes like why, then I go with the what, and then I finish up with how. If my competitor, the close competitor, is now testing how and what, that's the language pattern that can see through their ads library and through their whole customer journey. I'll potentially want to go for how and what, just to try it myself. Collect the data, ask why, and then come back with the whole same process. So the best part is that you can spot these patterns, like I said, across your market, which means whenever you go into ads library, whenever you go into their funnels, all you have to do is just understand the pattern, the language pattern. So let's say why, what it means, and you're up there scrolling, and you can instantly see. You can be like really strategic. You can put these things, little things, in buckets and go for it. So as example here, why what structure, ad goes on why, LP goes on what. I won't read this, but basically, ads going for some sort of like disaster. I'm not sure why my neck hurts so much. So that's basically going for a why. And then my LP, is like what, which means it goes right into it. It goes right into offer, which means this pillow has been sold over 500K times. 5. Here's what the hype is all about. So in this example, I even use those keywords, which means here I use why, here I use what. And those are the language patterns you can spot. Then I do the same here, but then I do it with what. Maybe I have high awareness product and they don't care about why, they don't care about how, they're just, like they care about your offer and what, like how it's probably better rather than why. So pretty much same here. At what, LP, what, you combine those. Then let's say I have some what and hows, do the same patterns, and then I go through the system. So if top performing language pattern across the market is what, how, I'll potentially want to crack advertorials. I'll put my focus on making my how better. Or if my top performing language pattern is why and what, I'll potentially just double down on PDB, because what is mathematically easier to consume through optimized PDP, because they don't care about it. What is what? And cherry on top, knowing language patterns, you can actually take your top performing ad and personalize that to your LP landing page, which means you take your specific ad using specific language patterns, you match them, you match angles, you match language patterns, you cross match whatever. And to be honest, like we had some cases where you can actually carry out 2 to 3x more on your top performing ad, comparing that to your evergreen winning ads. So now, a bit of testing, CRO, and CRO is in my eyes quite a complex thing, to be honest. Most of the times I don't even get like what I'm looking at. Sometimes I still have that type of thing, that type of feeling. So here I don't want you to feel the same. I'll just give you the simple things. I'll give you things that actually move the needle, and here today I have them too. So 2 things that are moving the needle for us is like, what we test in terms of CRO, which is going to be your offer and copywriting. And like we discussed in the beginning, like we opened up this presentation, offer is going to be your edge via math, via numbers. Copywriting is going to be your edge via psychology. So congrats, now you're intentional. And to summarize this whole thing, pretty long thing, business should be a smooth ride, and the only way it's not smooth if you're not aware of the process. If we look at nature, the way grass is growing, trees are coming out after winter, whatever, for them it's effortless. Month in, month out, it just works. Nature, as long as water is out there, and you just go for it. So that was my goal of this presentation, to give you the process of creating, scaling, and optimizing with clarity. Because at the end of the day, like the most stressful part of entrepreneurship is just when things are going bad and you're not aware of where it's coming from. Where, it's not enjoyable anymore. So with this process of data analysis, projections, creatives, offers, whatever funnels, you should know exactly what's working, what's not working, and get rid of unstable, unpredictable, uncomfortable, unprofitable, no free cash flow, whatever type of business. And turn it into enjoyable, predictable, scalable, cash-making machine. Remember, it's not about which method works the best or which one is cooler. It's all about which method brings the most stability, clarity, and predictability in the growth of this business model. Because it's already pretty complex, and most of the times we're not even sure, where it's coming from. And method, which you can actually repeat over and over again, which means repeat that cycle of getting simple, complex, simple. And I actually, to close that down, I have really quick example why it actually works. There was this study, I was reading it actually when I was on my flight from Miami to Dubai. And this study said that, they take 50 whatever people on 5 different diets for 6 months and measure their results. In keto diet, it worked the best. It was somehow different or better? Probably not. It worked best because people stick to it for way longer due to the results they got within the first 7 days, which means they got the feedback loop. They stuck to the diet because of the feedback loop, and they got that feedback loop quickly, 7 days. Same goes with ecom. Whichever method brings you clarity, stability, control is going to be the most enjoyable thing to do, and you're going to win. You're going to stick with it. So guys, I hope this is going to be a strategy you're going to enjoy for long. I hope you got that feedback loop you were looking for. Thanks for spending time with me, and let's go with some questions.
Man, thank you so much.
First time. Hard. We're gonna go for some questions.
Dennis?
Question. You said if you're at the coffee merchant, like that it almost goes without being very profitable in your cost per acquisition, and you start to improve a lot of things in your store, like don't you a bit like a limit with that? Isn't then it the problem maybe with the creatives or the research based, etc.?
You mean in terms of like how you're...
Yeah, so you said that boost your order thing or whatever, so you're starting to tweak a lot of things, but there's only so much you can tweak on your offer at certain days, right?
Yeah, so in general, like the whole thing with all of this is just, what I meant by this is that you should be able to have a system in order to spot what's important, what's moving the needle. So then instead of running around, trying all of these things, let's say testing 5 different listicles or going for a few hundred ads, you understand exactly why it's not working just because you had the intention from before, both on the funnel, offer, creative, whatever, which means you can, things not going right, you pull out that string, pull out that tool out of your toolbox, and you're just gonna fix it.
Yeah, thank you so much, brother.
Cool, thanks.
Thanks for doing it, bro.